Every government says the same thing. We're borrowing responsibly. The debt is manageable. Future growth will pay for it. And yet, year after year, government debt only goes in one direction. Up. Different parties, different countries, different ideologies. Same result. So here's the uncomfortable mystery. If debt is such a problem, why does the system seem designed to create more of it? Not accidentally, not temporarily, systematically. Tonight, we read pulling back the curtain on the hidden machinery that makes endless government debt not a failure, but a feature. Setting the stage, debt is a tool, not a mistake. To understand government debt, we must first abandon a comforting illusion. Governments don't borrow like households. A family takes debt to survive or invest. A government uses debt to govern behavior, shape economies, and maintain power across generations. Debt is not just money owed. It's leverage. Its obligations stretch through time. And once debt becomes embedded in institutions, budgets, and expectations, escaping it becomes nearly impossible by design. The machinery behind endless debt didn't appear overnight. It evolved slowly, quietly, and legally. Origins: when debt became permanent for most of human history, governments feared debt, kings defaulted, empires collapsed. Excessive borrowing was seen as dangerous and dishonorable. That changed in the late 17th and 18th centuries. The rise of central banks and sovereign bond markets transformed debt from a risk into a revenue model. When governments realized they could, one, borrow long-term, two, roll over old debt with new debt, three, pay interest instead of principal. Debt stopped being temporary. It became permanent infrastructure. The key innovation wasn't borrowing. It was never paying it back. The rise, debt as the engine of governance. As democracies expanded, so did government spending. Wars, welfare states, infrastructure, and bureaucracy required steady funding, but raising taxes was politically costly. Debt solved that problem. Borrowing allowed governments to: 1. Spend without immediate backlash. 2. Shift costs to future voters. 3. Promise benefits. Without present sacrifices, bond markets became the silent partner of the state. Investors receive risk-free returns. Governments gain unlimited time. This alliance locked both sides into a cycle. Governments must issue debt. Markets must buy it. And central banks quietly ensured the system never collapsed. Breaking point: when debt stopped mattering. The breaking point came when debt levels grew too large to repay. Instead of reversing course, the system adapted. Inflation, currency devaluation, monetary expansion. Debt didn't disappear, it was diluted. The gold standard once limited this process. When money was tied to gold, excessive debt had consequences. Once that link was severed, limits vanished. Debt no longer needed to be repaid, just service. As long as interest payments were manageable, the illusion held. Fallout: debt as silent taxation. Here's the hidden cost of endless debt. It taxes without voting. Inflation erodes savings. Currency loses purchasing power. Asset prices rise faster than wages. The public pays not through taxes, but through dilution. Meanwhile, 1. Governments avoid hard choices. 2. Politicians avoid accountability. 3. Central banks absorb pressure. Debt becomes invisible governance. Failed fixes: why reform never works every few decades. Reform is promised. Balanced budget amendments. Austerity programs. Fiscal responsibility acts. They fail for one reason: the system cannot function without debt. Cut spending and economies contract. Raise taxes and voters revolt. Default and markets panic. Debt is the only politically survivable option. So reforms manage optics, not outcomes. Modern parallels: the machine today, global government debt exceeds global economic output. Interest payments rival defense budgets. Central banks hold government bonds as assets. New debt pays old debt. In every crisis, financial crashes, pandemics, wars, feeds the same machine. The pattern repeats. 1. Crisis gives emergency spending. 2. Emergency spending gives new debt. 3. New debt gives permanent obligations. The machine doesn't stop. It accelerates. 3 takeaways. 1. Government debt is structural, not accidental. It is baked into modern governance. 2. Debt replaces accountability with postponement. Costs are delayed, not solved. 3. Inflation is the quiet enforcement mechanism. The public pays without protest because the tax is hidden. Final warning: the danger isn't that governments borrow too much. It's that debt becomes the only way the system knows how to operate. A machine that cannot stop borrowing eventually loses the ability to choose.